all of your space very well. Now, what you've got going on here is very important. Notice all these little swirly curlies and these little fishies. They're just so cute, by the way. They're very cute. I love those fish. Notice how these little fish and these little swirly curlies, and to even some extent the floating lanterns here, those bad boys are what in the art world we refer to as visual noise. Visual noise, okay? They're not the main event, but there's enough of these kind of free-floating smaller shapes moving around the image so that your eye keeps moving across the image. If you had just said, here are my clouds, here is a fish, here is a fish, here is a fish, done, you'd have all this negative space that's not being used within these shapes you created. But because you have these little free-floating kind of small things happening all around the piece, the eye is in constant movement across the whole image. So, visual noise is a really fancy way of saying, put more stuff in it, that way the eye keeps moving, just put more stuff in it, all right? So visual noise, y'all, don't be afraid of adding extra elements. So this is very good. Is there anything else in here you'd like to share with the group?
That's the one best one, so I also have the digital version.
Oh my goodness, you got a little digital board. Oh, that's cute. That is very cute. It's very small, y'all. It's very small. Very little, very small, but that's okay. And a lot more visual noise, I think, going on. I'm going to hold it from a little bit of a distance, and you see all those smaller elements that are in play. That's keeping your eye in motion. Even though this is a small image, you can really see how your eye is still bouncing around because of those smaller little elements just kind of living in the background. See that? So, all of those little orange spots, all those little wisps coming out from the main figure, that is keeping the eye in motion across the whole piece. So, some people would refer to that as like busy work or whatnot. It's not busy work if the eye is still flowing. That's the main thing. So, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. Oh my gosh, I can see in the background with your clouds where you're going with that colored pencil. Nice, very good, very good. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Good job, bravery. Bravery is rewarded. Yes, thank you. I picked on it, and there we go. Now, who's got something they'd like to share? Anybody? You've got a pad in your hand. What do you have? Oh, give me that cringe. Give it to me. Yes. Y'all. Oh my goodness. Now, is this a finished piece?
Yes.
Aha! Excellent. That's what I wanted to know. Ladies and gentlemen, look at this. I'm going to walk this around so everybody can take a quick look at that. My goodness. See that? Now, this is what she is referring to as her cringiest piece. This is the cringy piece, y'all. I'm not going to say this is not that cringy. This is not that cringy at all. This is actually very well rendered. I really enjoy your use of grayscale, and there's a bit of tan in this piece as well, even in her skin, especially down on that lower shoulder. You see how that little bit of like tan on that edge? That's giving the impression of a little bit of light, maybe even just a little bit of reflected color from the inside of this cloth. Now, reflected color is something, especially if you're working digitally, you might accidentally or if you're working with paint. I'm going to do some live painting a little bit later this afternoon out in front of the art show right over there. And you're going to see that I will accidentally pick up color as I'm painting quickly with real physical paint. Or if you are painting digitally and you're using a real soft blendy brush kind of thing, you might accidentally pick up a color that was next to it. Don't ever be afraid when that happens, because color reflects onto other surfaces. And that's just what we call reflected light or ambient color. Don't be scared if you pick up color that lives in the world around the figure. Now notice that you have not, that the tiny bit of tan here on that shoulder, that is what's selling realism. So I'm going to zoom in real quick. It's a very faint thing. It's like when I zoom in, it's even harder to see, but there is a tiny bit of that tan reflected down here. Now, if I come up into the face, there's not, what, I did bad. Should have done good, and I did bad. Oops, sorry about that. Sorry, I missed everything, okay. But notice how in the face, it's just black and white. We've just got a value scale. Value referring to light and dark, okay? So, thank you so much. So, with this value scale, we're getting the sense of a three-dimensional figure. We're really getting the sense of the bottom of this nose. Now, what I like about this piece, you're saying it's cringe, but what I like about this piece, notice how all of the mass of this figure is actually being represented in the difference between light and shade. Light and shade. Line does not actually exist. Line is a concept that we as humans made up to define the world around us. What we perceive as line is actually the difference between light and dark. So if like you look around this room and you look at all these straight lines and all these, very human-built things, like the lines in this wall over here, those are not actually lines. That is literally just the difference between light and shade. That's all that is. So rather than using line work to define this face, what our friend over here has done is use the difference between the light hitting the top of that nose and the shadow that would naturally be falling underneath to define the mass of that shape. And that is very nice. I like that a lot. Now the only thing that I would say, like work on a little bit more, that little bit of tan, that little bit of glow, what we call the core shadow, that if you reflected that just a little bit in the same like harsh shadow on the side of her face right here, maybe just a little bit over here on that side of that chin and some on the bottom of the earlobe, that would give the same effect of this beautiful, lovely tan cloth throwing that light back up onto the face. That would give just a little bit more of a natural glow to it. So, now up here in the hair, lovely. I love what's going on here. I love that we've got ourselves like a very goth kind of thing. I myself am rocking a skunk trail in my hair, so I get it, I like it. Notice how soft the brushwork is though. See that? Now, if you were to come in and you did just a couple harsh lines, like not blended out, just following the mass of that hair as it moved across the head, just using a dark pencil or a dark line of any kind, does not need to be pure black. You'd be surprised how often pure black does not happen, okay? Dark blues, dark grays, those are much better ways to represent shadow than just straight black. But a couple dark lines cutting back into that white mass would really give the impression of individual hairs kind of popping out from the underbuilding of that painting, what we call the underpainting. So just coming in and popping in a few harsh lines to say, yeah, you know what? That's where that lives. I mean it. That's what that's supposed to do. That's going to tell the viewer, oh, it's hair. It's flowing. Whereas right now, it's so blended out. We have a few indications of like shadow and light, but a couple more. Don't be scared of those. That's the thing. Because with digital especially, give yourself another layer. If it doesn't work out, it never happened. Or a little secret. Nobody's ever going to know. That's the beauty. Also coming back once you've done your little black and doing just a few of bright white, like the same sort of white here at the forehead. Just a couple little hairs. Once again, following the mass of that hair. That'll give the indication of bright white hairs, but also a touch of highlight as well. Now, real quick, y'all, highlights, I'm going to tell you a little secret. You're going to hear me say this a lot when I'm out doing my live painting. Highlights, this is an artist secret. They're a sucker's game, okay? And by that I mean, the less highlight you use, the more important it becomes. Too many highlights, and it stops being special real fast, okay? So whenever you're painting or drawing, doing digital or anything like that, just remember highlights are important, but the less you use, the more important they are. So that's the deal. Too much and it starts to look like, Lisa Frank Nightmare. You don't want that. Or maybe you do. I'm not the boss of you. Have fun. So I really love this piece. I think it's very nice. See how you've got these little gentle hairs coming right down through here? I'm sensing a little bit of hesitance. They're kind of gray. They're very small. They're beautiful. That hair is flowing. There's a lot of movement in it. But if you came back, once again, with just 2 or 3 dark ones and then maybe like 2 super light gray ones, boom, done. Now we've got the sense of depth. You've created the shape. You've created mass. Now it's time to get in there and be like, and I meant it. I meant what I said, and I mean it again. And then move on with your life. Does that make sense? Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's beautiful. All right. Does anybody have cringe? I want to see something cringy. Oh, that hand went up. Yes. What do you have, my darling? What you got? Give it to me. Yes. Ah, beautiful. I love it. Is it a little emo boy? A little emo person?
Are you okay?
I don't know that. The kids are so much cooler than me these days. I don't even know anymore. Oh my goodness. Love it. Now, the first thing I see that I love about this, you have signed and dated your work. Even on a sketch, signing and dating your work. Even if you think you hate it, date your work. You don't need to sign it if you hate it, but go ahead and date it. Now here's the thing, y'all. Every bad drawing, every bad painting you've ever made, all that is XP. That's literally all that is. And before you know it, you'll have gained XP and you're gonna start leveling up and you won't even know it's happening. But if you date your work, you can always come back and go, what was I doing in 2009? Oh, actually that's pretty good. Good job, past me. Oh, that's bad. Oh, no, But it gives you a place of reference. If you don't date your work, your brain's not gonna rock on to like, oh, it's been 6 years. Oh, I'm not very good at all. This is really bad drawing. It's been 6 years. It's not that bad. You're doing great. So date your work. So right off the bat, this cringe you brought me is automatically correct just through your signing and dating it. See that? So good job on that. Now, cringe. Why do you feel this is cringy?
I was first starting watercoloring.
Here's the deal, y'all. When you are first starting something, and you said you're first starting watercolors here, whenever you are first starting a new medium, you are doing something incredibly brave. So brave. This is whole new territory. This is something you've never done before. So right off the bat, what you need to do when you're starting something you've never attempted before is give yourself the gift of grace, okay? Seriously. A lot of people will like get their watercolor kit, they'll sit down and they'll try it and they're like, because what's up here isn't happening right here, it hurts right here, right? Yeah, that feeling. I know that feeling, y'all. I know that feeling. But once again, it's all just XP. It's just points. That's all it is, okay? So, I cannot say this loud enough. Whenever you start a new medium, give yourself grace, okay? You earned it. You're being extremely brave. Most human beings on this planet will never even attempt it. So keep that in mind, okay? So, what you're attempting to do when you learn how to paint and draw, basically, you're trying to give yourself a knowledge base that 80% of the people on this planet will never even attempt to get, okay? So give yourself that gift of a little bit of, space for yourself to learn. Don't ever be shy about that. Now, you're saying this is cringy. I'm saying this is wonderful. Now, the reason why, there are certain things that, yeah, we could definitely push things here and there. Yeah, we could definitely say, I love this darkness here on the side of the figure. You see how that little bit of dark right here on this arm separates the chest from that arm? That's not cringe. That's correct. You came correct on that. Wonderful. Good job. But there are a couple things that I could say a little bit of improvement on. One thing, notice how the lines on this figure, all the line work is the same width. All the lines are the same width, basically. Now you've gone through with your color and you've definitely added depth within the lines that you've created. And especially if you're drawing from like anime and manga, you'll oftentimes notice that the line weight is the same all around. That's because these pieces are being, the animation cells, we say cells, but it's now digital, are being inked digitally as fast as humanly possible and then flood filled, so that they can just quickly get these things out if we're lucky enough for it to not be one of those mechanical puppets. You know what I mean? B-stars. My God. Anyway, so I hate watching that whole series, y'all. I hate watching it. Can't wait for season 3 so I can hate watch that too. So the line weight is fairly even across the figure. The hair is a different story. You got some really good depth in the hair. But if you were to fatten some lines and leave others thin, what that does is it gives the illusion of mass. So there is a trick that Disney does with their cells. When they ink a cell, when they line a cell, the lines are not the same size between the cells. We call that line weight, the weight of the line. The thicker a line is, the more weight that line is carrying. So say I'm like drawing somebody with their arm out like this. The top of the arm would be a thinner line, but to give the illusion of mass to the arm and give the illusion of maybe even an implied shadow, I use a slightly thicker line on the bottom. Now in animation, what this equates to, because Disney uses different thicknesses of lines in between all those cells, they're hitting our eyes so fast, the illusion of movement is of course happening. But when the character stands back and is just holding still, they're still animating that character, and because the lines are changing thickness, it gives the illusion of movement. It gives the illusion of breathing within the character. So just adding, like in areas where you think it might be a little darker anyway, like the inside of this arm over here, if you thicken that bad boy up a little bit, it's gonna make this look different from the outside there. Because this is on the outside, and we assume there's gonna be light from the outside touching those outside areas, that's gonna make that look less weighty. So, a little bit of difference in line, that's wonderful. Now you've applied a little bit of gray motion within the clothing, wonderful. Most people never even attempt those wrinkles, because wrinkles are scary, right? But just a little bit of difference in that shade and color gives us the illusion of all those little wrinkles. So while you're looking at this and going, this is cringy, I'm looking at this and going, there are several things that are absolutely working on this, okay? So, like I said, even your cringe has something in there that you learn from and you're gonna take to your next drawing. Does that make sense? Yeah? Wonderful. Now, do you have anything you're proud of? Ooh, she does. Excellent. We looked at the cringe. Let's see the one we're proud of. Yes, yes, yes. We'll find it. It's good. Ooh. Oh, okay, y'all. Okay, look at this. I'm gonna start at the front here. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Now right off the bat, what first thing that hits me, asymmetry. See that? Already more interesting than that character being center frame. So because the character is offset, automatically our eye has to engage with that piece more than if it were just a character sitting center on the page. Now the other thing I'm noticing is that right in the center of the page, that is where we have decided that is going to be the horizon line where our city is meeting our water. Now the good thing about drawing where land meets water is you don't need to worry about making it a straight line. You don't because where land and water meet is very rarely a straight line. So you can get away with some pretty ugly lines. It's really cool. It's fine. Nobody will notice. So now, I love how you've done horizontal marks in your marker against the sky up here. With the sky, you can get away with doing some really crazy marks in the sky because clouds do crazy things. But because you've kept them relatively flat, and because you've left the white of the paper showing through here and there, we get the impression of maybe some far distant striated little clouds way, way, way up in the sky. Then you come back with a little bit of what looks like maybe like a gel marker or something and added a couple little stars. Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Now, what I love about this, notice how the character is wearing a black hoodie, right? But it's not black that is making those lines. The wrinkles are done in gray, all right? So using light to like reference where light is actually hitting and making those wrinkles pop is working out a whole lot better than if you had gone in and said, okay, I'm just gonna make it super dark gray and then I'm gonna come back and draw every tiny little wrinkle in black and then, okay, I'll come back with a little more gray. This is very simple, very elegant way to tell the story of a dark hoodie without having to go and do way too much work. Your audience is not stupid. Keep that in mind, y'all. Your audience knows what it is you're trying to get across, and the less effort you put into telling them that story, the faster they grok it. I know that sounds ridiculous, but especially with things that are from nature, like humans or like mountains, trees, clouds, that kind of thing, the less you mess with it, the more it looks like God did it and not Debbie from HR, if that makes sense. All right? Cool. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing this. Good job. Yay. Clap, 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 y'all. Clap, clap, clap. All right, you've got an iPad in your hand. What do you have? Is this something you're proud of? I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Oh my goodness, y'all. This is beautiful. Okay, this is a piece we're proud of. Look at this. Look how pretty, you guys. Lovely. Now the character is centered in the image, but notice what is also happening within this image. We have got curving shapes. Now the curves of these wings, the wings themselves are asymmetrical, but they are still telling the same story of the weight, and the curves of these wings are bringing your eye up to meet that character's face. You see that? Now, when human beings look at paintings or drawings or anything that is supposed to actually represent a human figure, we do something that we don't even know we're doing it. The first thing humans do when they look at a picture of what is supposed to be another human being, we automatically look for the eyes. That's the first thing we do. So, if you're ever at a museum and like you see like John Singer Sargent was a very famous painter in the early half of the last century, and he painted life-size portraits. They were gorgeous, they were beautiful. If you ever see one in real life, you'll be so mad, because it's literally like, and stripe of white, now the dress is satin. What? Once again, the less effort you put in, the better. But there was there's a language to art that we don't really teach anymore. And one of the languages of art, especially back then, was if you look at a painting of someone and you can't see the eyes, if the eyes are like in really deep shadow, if there's no little like glint, that little white spot in the eye, the catch light, if that does not exist in a portrait, especially from that time, that means the subject is dead or died during the process of making that painting. So, when human beings look at art, the first thing we do is look for the eyes. The brighter the eye, the more that character feels alive to us, okay? So, that little spark of light in the eye, what that's doing in our little lizard hindbrain, what that is it's telling us, oh, that eyeball is wet, and if that eyeball is wet, then that character must be alive. So once again, that's something we don't even know we do, but it's part of the psychology of us, and that translates to art. Now these eyes are super duper bright, so that's like one of the first places we're looking, like boom, there she is, whoosh, that is a big old eyeball, I love it. Now, what I love about this is that behind this curving shape coming up to the face, what we're seeing behind that is this darkness. Do you see how dark the back of the wing is compared to the top and the front? That is excellent. What that does is it pushes that back layer back, and the brightness here brings it forward. Now this is a very bright piece, but what I want y'all to really notice about this, notice how there is, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing almost no white. Do you see that? It's shades of soft purples, soft blues, almost like a Payne's gray. There's just a little bit of bright, super brightness here and there, but most of the story is being told through color, and that's important. Once again, remember, highlights are a sucker's game. The less you use, the more important they become. And because the brightest points on this piece have been relegated to the outside edges, the tops of these wings, just a little bit here and there, a little bit of brightness on the knees, and most of the sparkle up here is actually in a gold. That is actually far more interesting than if you would come in and go on white, now it looks flat, now it looks dead, now it looks that. But no, there's so much color going on here. Now the other thing that I would like you guys to really look at on this piece, which is very nice, is check out this neck. You see how the shadows in here, this is a flesh tone character, but the shadows are cool colors for the most part. See how that's a lot of purple, lots of blue in there? That is going to indicate coolness. Now warm colors like reds and yellows and oranges, anything that feels like fire, they pop forward from the piece. They pop forward. But things like purples and blues, they feel cool, they feel like a shadow. So that will push things back. So notice how that back shoulder feels like it's really pushed away from us, whereas the shoulder that's a little bit closer to us here, that guy is in warmer, more yellow tones, and it really feels like it's coming towards us. See that? So using cool colors in your shadows is way better than coming in and going, she has flesh tone, I will use just brown, and the brown will get darker, and then I will add black. Never add black, okay? Black, especially in like real media, like working with paint or watercolor or anything like that, black has one job, and it is to devour color, devour saturation, okay? So a lot of people think, oh, I'll just add gray or black to it. Not so much, because it kills the color. That's its one job, is to eat any color coming near it and turn it into a gray, all right? But if you use color as your shadow, well, that is far more visually interesting. Now also notice this little bit of pink right on the collarbone, right in the armpit, right on the edge of that shoulder there. that pink, that redness, right on those areas where what we call reflected light, or a little bit of light coming in from the side of a shadow. That little bit of pink, it's given a suggestion of warmth, because reds, fires, all that good stuff. But on those edges, anywhere where you're close to a bone, if you can feel your own body and go, yeah, there's a bone right there, go ahead and maybe throw a little pink on that bad boy, because it'll make it feel like there's a little blood under the skin. And the closer a bone is, the closer that blood is to the top of your skin. So like elbows, knees, that sort of thing, chin, tip of your nose. A little bit of red, little bit of pink on that will give the impression of blood under the skin, all right? So this is absolutely wonderful. My goodness, what I'm proud I'm proud for you on this. Notice, this is a lovely piece. We're getting a ton of light, we're getting a ton of movement in this piece, lots and lots of really good sparkle magic, lots of sparkle magic. Notice what's not there. The glow tool. No glow effect. And do you see how this piece really does radiate all that beautiful light coming through, all those beautiful pieces? All those bits of glitter floating through the background. The glow tool that comes with most programs, is this program? It's program, right? Yeah, it's program, yeah. People make a glow tool. I use a glow tool in some of my work, but very sparingly, and it's like the chef kiss. It's like, you know, that salt guy going like, and that's enough. Like that, just the tiniest bit. You will go out in the artist alley, and once you see it, you'll never be able to unsee it. People rely on that glow tool way too much. And the glow tool, well, while it's a nice little trick here and there for tiny little things, people use it way too much, and what it does is it gives what's called in the comic industry blowout. Blowout is when, like, if you just take that glow tool, you're like, yeah! It just goes white with like a tiny bit of color on the edge. That's blowout. You've blown out that entire piece of the painting. You've blown out that entire piece of the image. You no longer have any information coming through that is not of desirable quality. So, the fact that there is no, I'm not seeing any glow tool, maybe just a tiny, nope, see that? I was about to say maybe the tiniest bit on this arm, but as I zoom in, no. The effect of that glow on the edge of that arm is literally just the color of the light and a little bit of bright highlight right next to it. And when you zoom out, it gives the impression of the glow on that edge. So as often as you can, make sure you use color to represent light rather than letting that computer use, you know, the blowout glow tool to represent light. Thank you so much for sharing that. That was wonderful. All right. Ooh, we got something here. What do you got?
Take your pick.
Take a pic. Oh my goodness, did you get yourself printed up?
Yep.
Heck yeah, you guys. Now, just so we know right now, self-publishing is publishing. All right, y'all. Don't ever let anybody say, oh, yeah, we can't publish. It totally counts. It counts. It
Yeah.
counts. Okay, publish is published.
Choose
Period.
any of, look through it, choose any of the pictures if you wanted to.
Flippy, flippy, flippy. Words, words, words.
Oh, sorry.
That's from Hamlet. Okay. I'm very smart. No. Okay. Oh, here we go. All right. Now, what do you think of this? Is this good? Is this cringe? What do you feel about this piece right here?
I think it's fairly nice.
You think it's fairly nice. Wonderful. Then that is what we will go with.
Okay.
There is a lot I like here. This feels, there was a period in the late 60s, early 70s where the flower power hippie child movement started to die out. And in response, the younger people who came into the 70s, not having that hippie background with, you know, bright colors and all the flowers and trippy, you know, ooh, all the good drugs. No, 70s hit, it's bad, right? Gas shortage, everything's gross. And if you think back to the 70s, if you think back to that palette that was in like all those old TV shows, it was brown, it was avocado, it was like yellow. Everything looked like a smoker had been like rubbing themselves against it. You know what I mean? Everything was, and that was a direct response to the generation before that was doing these bright, really trippy kind of fun colors. Now this feels very late 60s to me. I'm getting a lot of real 60s kind of movement in it. What I like about the piece is the weight up here. Now the only thing I would say needs a little bit more going on is you have all this weight up here in the green of the hair. See how this feels like a mass up here? Down here, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of really interesting stuff, We've got these cool, almost like oyster shell looking things going on in the background. Lots and lots of little visual noise pieces, lots of little details and touches down there. But notice how much negative space is going on in between. Whereas up here, it's a solid block of color. It's not solid, there's lots of fun little visual noise pieces going on in here, but the weight feels heavy up here and less down here. Now I know that's because she's coming out of this rose down here, and that's really cool. The one thing I would have done differently is make that rose as wide as the hair. Do you see how like having that red beneath that green would really give sort of an even distribution of weight through the character? So the other thing that's fun is that you've got green, red, peach, and green again. And red and green are on opposite sides of the color wheel, which means when you put them together, they pop, okay? So with color theory, and color theory is like a whole 3-hour panel, let me tell you, but with color theory, basic rule, if you want a color to pop, if you want a red to read as the reddest red that ever read, that is the red, man, that is red, you put green next to it. Green, being on the other side of that color wheel, makes the red look twice as vibrant as if you just had it off by itself. Does that make sense? Yeah? Now, if you wanted the red to feel like it was just a little bit softer, you'd put colors that live next to it on the color wheel, like an orange or a yellow, because they're in the same family. But if you put something that's all the way on the other side, like if you put red and purple next to each other, oh, that looks great, that looks great. But because it takes red to make purple, it's not going to pop quite as much. But you take that green, you stick it next to that red, boom, that pops next to each other. So that's the only thing I would say I don't really care for on it is the amount of, like, this needs to be bigger. That's it. That's it. I love all the extra stuff. I love all these little, like, yellow pops in that green. If you just left it that straight green, it would not be nearly as interesting to look at. Once again, visual noise, y'all. Visual noise. Very important. I'm going to flip through here a little bit more. Hump-a-dum-dum-dum, doop-doop-doop-doop. Oh, this is fun. I like this guy right here. Yes. This is interesting. Once again, a figure in the center of the page, that big black shadow underneath, it grounds this floating thing in a reality. It grounds it. So having just a little bit of darkness beneath whatever figure, and this is some kind of crazy fun figure going on, this is not representational of anything real, but having a shadow underneath it tells our brain, no, it's real, no, it's there, even if we can tell it's a super fantastic sort of character that could never actually exist in this real world. So having some sort of shadow beneath your character really does ground it in a reality, even if it is a false reality. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, good, yeah. So, the fact that there are reds and pinks used as shadow, once again, using color as opposed to tone, black I mean, grays I mean, that is much more visually interesting than if you were to come in and just use like a darker yellow or a darker brown. No, much more interesting to actually use color. Thank you so much for sharing this. That's awesome. Yay. All right. Ooh, I got a hand right here. Yes. What do we got? The whole thing. The whole thing.
It's not a lot, is there?
It's not a lot. Oh, I get that. Oh, okay. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Washi tape, y'all. I love washi tape. I love it. Anything to make Sketchbook more fun, I'll do it. I don't even care. I love it. Oh, y'all. This is lovely. Yes. Look at this. Now, I love sketchbooks like this. I love things where, like, you take it from another thing you did. This is clearly done on a different kind of paper. This feels like some sort of newsprint, maybe, not manila, some sort of, like, softer newsprint, and put it into the book, fold it over, it's there forever. That's wonderful. This is a little bit like what we call a junk journal, okay? Don't be scared of that word. I have sketchbooks that are a lot like this, where I'll be like, I want to keep this forever, cut out, paste, washi tape. Yeah, I'm cute now. Don't be scared of like junk journal. Seriously, if something's working for you in a sketchbook that that has like cringe, one good sketch, feel free to go ahead and cut that bad boy out, stick it in a book that you're actually still looking at. Yes. Now, what I love about this, right off the bat, this is the most important thing you can do. Do you see how this is real figure, real world, This is a real representation of a 3D human. This is real stuff, right? This is going to sound real lame. I hope you guys liked me before, because you're about to not like me. Y'all, if you want to learn how to draw anime and manga, the #1 best thing you can do is not draw anime and manga. I know that sounds crazy. I know that sounds nuts. I know it does. I know it does. But doing this is the hard work. This is how you learn about form and shape and the human anatomy. And Leonardo da Vinci very famously said, if you can accurately draw a human being, the muscle structure, all of it from memory, and if you can draw a horse from memory, humans and horses, if you can do that, you're done. You're an artist. That's all you need to know. You can paint anything else under the sun, but as soon as you know how to draw the human form correctly, if you can draw a horse correctly, you are officially good to go. That's all you need to know. And you know what? I took his advice. He was right. He was right. So, humans, horses are the hardest thing in the world to draw for artists. So yeah, if you can get those guys, you got this. Now, what I love about this, first and foremost, notice how we're using shade to really get the idea of the human body rather than harsh lines. We're not going in with like a pen and going like, this is the only line I have. Nope, this is 15 minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you, 15. So, we're seeing real thought go into learning the form of the human figure. And once again, line does not exist. This is the difference between light and shade. Now, also notice these directional lines. I love this. I have sketchbooks from when I was in high school filled with this kind of stuff. This is wonderful. This sort of work, this learning the motion and how to distribute weight through the human body, is one of the most important lessons you will ever give yourself. And you are giving this to yourself. You can go to art school. You can have the best professors in the entire world. They can show you every trick in the book. But if you do not put in this hard work, it will not register back. Just because you know it doesn't mean you can do it. Does that make sense? Yeah? So going through these motions and doing these drawings, that is the key to the kingdom. Now, if you're trying to draw anime and manga without having gone through this step first, what's going to happen is you're going to notice your characters feel a little stiff and maybe, oh, I have a real hard time drawing a 3/4 view, or man, I just can't seem to get the feet to work right, or there's just something wrong about it. Yeah, that's because every single one of the mangaka, the anime people, the comic creators, be it American, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, whatever, all the comic creators that you love, that you're drawing from, they've done this. This is the price you pay to be able to do what it is they do. They choose to draw in the style they draw because they have this background to build on. We learn the rules so that we can break the rules, okay? Until you know the rules, how do you know what you're breaking? Like, maybe it's a mistake. I don't know. But if you know the rules, you're like, that's not a mistake. I want his elbow down in his knee. Helsing. So anyway, yeah, some of us read Helsing. So, this right here, all of this, like, really sketch. Oh, the other thing I really like, just this one page, this, everything that I like within this, notice how sketchy it actually is. Notice all those lines. Notice how those lines build on each other to create those shapes. This is not about going, I have one line, it must be a perfect line, this line is the best line ever. It's about building the masses within these shapes. That is what is really important, because that's going to help you to think three-dimensionally. And when you can take a figure in your own brain and accurately kind of just turn it, just think about like, okay, well, if the muscle were turned like this, that means that it would be coming out of the hip like this, which means that this would be like that, and the greater trochanter would be that. Okay, cool, I got it. And that only comes from working up and these real loose, sketchy layers. With your sketchbooks, like I said, see how this is cut out from different things and pasted in there? Clearly you like these, you wanted to keep these. That's exactly right. Boom, it's there now. This is more of a concentrated workbook as opposed to a dump book. Okay, we talked about dump books. Dump books are where you can just go nuts, just go nuts, just go nuts. Like, nobody's ever gonna see it, it doesn't even matter, burn it when I'm dead, you know, that kind of thing. But that is where you'll start to really get the confidence of the movement of those lines. What you don't want to do is come in scared and stiff like this, because and I know what I'm about to say is gonna sound like crystal rubbing hippie nonsense, y'all, but this is very important. The energy you put into your work reads back to your audience, okay? So if you came in and you're like, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, it will look scared. But if you come in and you're like, I don't even care, I don't even care, that confidence comes out of those lines. So don't ever be scared of making a mess. Messes are where we find the treasure, okay? So I'm gonna fold him down because I love him. Okay, let's see what else we got. Oh my goodness, what are you working with here? Look at this dragonfly, y'all.
It's
What is
a gouache.
Gouache, I love gouache. I love gouache. Gouache is the grown-up, richer cousin of watercolor. It blew up over COVID. People discovered gouache like, oh my gosh, an opaque watercolor, get out. Basically, it's the grown-up version of tempera paint, and I love it, I love it, I love it. Gouache is beautiful. Gouache is both one of the most forgiving and one of the hardest things to work with, so congratulations, you're doing great on that. Beautiful. Ooh, lovely, Sonic, very nice, nice. 10 minutes, thank you, 10. So we got lots of sketches. I'm just gonna flip here. Noise, okay. I like this. Okay, now here's a question I have for you. On this piece right here, the soft shading in the face, are you using your pencil or are you using your finger?
I'm just using the pencil.
Using the pencil, thank you very much. Now, I want to show this to you guys. See how there's just the softest bit of shading living around in this figure? It's very soft, very soft. I'm going to come over here and let y'all see that. Just a little bit of soft shading throughout the cheeks and everything. The reason why I asked you is because you want to do what's being done here. You want to use the pressure on the tip of your pencil. Learn how to really work with gradation from dark to light, from light to dark. So nice little soft shadows here and there. I love how you used the eraser to cut back in to give a little highlight back there. That's excellent. What you don't ever want to do, and I see this a lot in sketchbooks, people think that, okay, I'll put the graphite down, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to rub it with my fingertip. Don't ever do that. Don't ever do that. The only time that's appropriate is when you're working with charcoal, okay? You can get away with it with charcoal. You don't ever want to do that in your sketchbook, and you never want to do it with graphite, okay? So, using the pressure on the tip of the pencil to get very soft gray, more pressure to get darker colors, that's what you want to do. You're training your hand to understand the pressure you're putting on the tip of that pencil. Now, the reason why we don't ever want to use our finger to blend is because, A, it's cheating. There's no such thing as cheating, really. It's like straight up plagiarism is cheating. Most people are like, if you're using a reference, you're cheating. Those people are idiots. Don't listen to them, okay? All artists use references. I don't know a single working artist who doesn't work from references. But the reason why you don't ever want to use your finger to do this, to make your blends, is because your hand is covered in skin, right? What does skin have in it? Oil, exactly. So it's like when you leave a potato chip on a paper towel, then you take it off and there's that little spot of oil. So what you're doing if you do that is you're grinding the oil from your skin into the surface, the texture of the paper, and it may look good in the moment, but I guarantee you, when you come back like a year later, there's gonna be a weird kind of yellow, greasy tint going on. What is that? That's literally your own oil ground into the paper. You never want to do that, okay? Learn to gradate with the tip of that pencil. Now let me ask you something. Was this drawn from life? Did you have a model? Were you looking in the mirror? Okay, drawing from life, drawing real world things in a real world environment, you are your best model. Think about like the masters of art. How many self-portraits have they all left behind? So many, because we're always there. We are always there. So using yourself as a model is an excellent thing, but the most important thing, once again, drawing real world things from a real world environment. That is so very, very important. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is so good, y'all. Claps. Yes, thank you, claps. So the thing with drawing real world things in a real world environment is your brain is a toolbox, and think of it like a little filing cabinet, right? Say I need to draw a Coke can. Well, I'm not just going to look up a Coke can online. I'm going to go, if I want to be able to pull a Coke can from any angle out of my head, I'm actually going to take a Coke can, put it on the table, draw it like that, put it on its side, draw it like that, turn it, draw it like that, look at it from the top, draw it like that. Okay, cool, now I've got all the angles and they're in there, okay? So the next time I'm drawing a comic and I don't need a ton of detail, I just need to know it's accurate, I'm gonna go, okay, filing cabinet, Coke can, see from the top, and you'll remember, oh yeah, there's that little rim, and then it dips in and it comes back up, and the tab is in the center, but the mouthpiece is not in the center, and all the stuff you wouldn't think about had you not actually drawn that real world thing in a real world environment, okay? And if you need a reference, you just go to your sketch, no big deal, right? But you cannot pull what you have not put in. Does that make sense? Yeah? Cool. All right, we got time for one more. Oh, we got one over here. What you got? We're tight. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Now what was this done in? Clip Studio. Oh, my baby, my sweet baboo, Clip Studio Paint. Right after this at 3:30 in panel room 3, I'm going to be doing Clip Studio 102. So if you guys want to learn more about the guts of Clip Studio, 5 minutes, thank you, 5. Then we'll be doing that in panel room 3 at 3:30. Now this is very small. I love your phone case, by the way. It's very fancy. I love it. Okay, this is gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and just pass this around so everybody can see. That is beautiful. Now notice what's happening here. Backlighting. We are being lit from behind. The whole piece is being lit from behind. And what we're getting on the characters is that reflective light that lives in shadows. Like even if you're walking in shade, you're still going to see little pops of like bluish sort of highlights here and there as you walk around in shaded areas. So because there's this giant bright highlight coming in from behind, the characters are really nicely framed in. Your eye goes, oh, what's that? Oh my goodness. Now once again, what you're going to notice is that loop. See those loops? That big curve that's going on here on the top? Once again, that's that Disney trick of loop, and then we assume a loop. Now once again, you're a human, other people are humans. The humans who are going to look at this, our brain fills in the gaps. So we know there's a loop there, we know there's a loop there. Our brain automatically goes, there must be something outside of this world. The world continues. So once again, that 3 curved thing, even though the 3rd curve isn't in there, our brain is filling in that gap. Makes it feel harmonious, very cool. Now the other thing that I really like about this is the amount of yellow you're using to represent that warm light from behind. You really have clearly a very firm grasp on color theory. You have a very firm grasp on like warmth and using color to tell the story, as opposed to going in there and going, here is a tree and here is a leaf and I shall draw the leaf and the leaf's name is Chad and the next leaf's name is Chad and the next leaf's name is Chad and then there's another Chad and this one is John. Just kidding, it's still Chad. Nope. You've gone through, notice how loose, I'm not showing you, you did this. Notice how loose those trees are. When you look at them, if you get real close on there, it's literally just blobs. See that? Once again, the human brain fills in the gaps. You don't need to tell every tiny story about every tiny leaf. Now, it's those little parts that are not painted where that light from behind the tree is poking through that's really giving us the impression that that mass clearly must be made up of 1,000 smaller things because of all those tiny little spatial holes, that negative space coming through in between. So just letting that do what it wants to do and letting that light come through is really, really, really selling the idea of all of this space. But once again, from a distance, oh my gosh, trees! Up close, it's blobs, because your audience is not stupid. Now remember, y'all, work smarter, not harder, okay? Scrooge McDuck, all right? I'm not arguing with Scrooge McDuck. That guy swims through gold. Like, whatever he says goes, okay? So, the less you the more you try to hammer home something, the more you start to get the idea that it's overworked. Does that make sense? There is a very fine line where you can absolutely go one step too far and game over, man, game over. I'm constantly having to back up, leave the room when I'm doing a painting at home, and come back with what we call fresh eyes. Fresh eyes are a real thing. This piece is so very bright, I can only imagine that you had to walk away from it every now and then, kind of blink and come back to it. Now, especially with digital work, it's very important to give yourself that fresh eye, and I'll tell you why. It's something that, thank you so much for sharing. Y'all, claps, very nice, very nice, yeah. Now, fresh eyes, even in your sketchbook, very important, because the longer you look at something, the more your brain's like, I've made friends with this, it's concrete, nothing can change. Take a break, walk away, go look at something else, maybe we'll have like a little Coca-Cola, I don't know why I'm saying Coke, I don't even know, coffee, you know, take a walk, come back 30 minutes later, and then boom, whatever it is that was messing with you, it's gonna pop out this time because you've kind of been staring at it. The other reason why this is important with digital work is because, do y'all remember that little experiment like from elementary school where like the teacher would give you an image that was printed in like negative and you would stare at it for like a whole 60 seconds without blinking, and then you look at a blank piece of paper and suddenly you're seeing the image on that paper in the correct colors? Do you guys remember that thing? Yeah? That exact same thing is happening while you're working on your art, be it on paper, be it on digital. What's happening is that light is blasting into your eyes, and the cones in your eyes, the color receptors, are being worn out. That's why when you look at the negative image for a whole minute and then you look at a blank piece of paper, you're seeing the correct color because they're burned into your eye. Thank you so much. One minute and I'm out of here. So, whenever you're painting on a white canvas, the first thing you do is get rid of all that white as fast as possible, because white is the brightest light can be, and that's blasting into your face. It's hard to make correct color choices. With digital, there is literal physical light being produced by whatever screen it is you're looking at, blasting into your eyes. So it is very important, once again, to give yourself the gift of distance and the gift of grace, because remember, y'all, you're doing something extremely brave, okay? I know it means nothing coming from a total stranger, but I'm proud of every single one of you, just so you know, okay? Well, thank you so much for coming, y'all. Thank you so much for sharing your work with me and everybody else. I'll see you at 3:30.